Welcome to SEPSA Talk. I am Evans Apia Kisi, the host of SEPSA Talk. SEPSA is Center for Better Society Advocacy and Research Africa. SEPSA Africa is a non-profit organization that believes in a better society for all. We in SEPSA Africa believe that a better society begins with you and I. Hashtag, a better society begins with me. For more information, please log on to www.sepsaafrica.org. Please follow us on the following social media platforms: YouTube, SEPSA Talk, Facebook at SEPSA Africa, Twitter at SEPSA Africa, Instagram, SEPSA Africa. Like always, today, we bring you a very interesting, educative, and informative discussion on the topic, breaking the political party duopoly in Ghana. Don't go away, stay with us, and I'm sure you will enjoy the discussion. To help us deal with this important topic are Marek Kofi Gane. He's an independent presidential aspirant for Ghana's 2020 presidential elections. He's a chartered certified accountant. He's the director of program in public financial management. He runs the MG Consulting Limited, a private executive coaching consultancy in Ghana. He's an international development expert. He's a member of Association of Chartered Certified Accountants, ACCA. He holds a postgraduate certificate in microfinance for development from University of Greenwich, England. Marek Kofi Gane, welcome to SEPSA Talk. Honorable, if you could unmute.
Hi, glad to be here.
Thank you very much.
Can you hear me now?
Thank you, Honorable Kofi.
Yes, thank you for the invitation, and I'm glad to be here.
It's a pleasure to host you, sir. Our next guest, who is obviously not new to SEPSA Talk, is Professor Enoch Opoku Entry. He's an associate professor of leadership and management at Viterbo University, La Crosse, Wisconsin. He's a leadership consultant, an author, and civic educationist. He holds a PhD in business organizational leadership from the Indiana Wesleyan University, Indiana, USA. He holds MSc in business organizational leadership from the Mount St. Joseph University, Cincinnati, Ohio, USA. And then he holds a BEd in psychology from the University of Cape Coast. Prof, welcome once again to SEPSA Talk.
Thank you very much, Evans. I'm pleased to be here.
Thank you, and it's always a pleasure to host you, sir. And our next guest is Dr. Ishmael Rekun. He's also obviously not new to SEPSA Talk. He's a health and social policy researcher. He's a policy scientist. He's currently a policy analyst for the Ministry of Energy and Resources, Regina, Canada. He holds a PhD in public policy from the Johnson Shoyama Graduate School of Public Policy, USASK, Canada. He holds MA in Political Science, Public Administration from the Brock University, Ontario, Canada. He also holds a BA in Political Science from the University of Ghana, Legon. His expertise lies in health and social policy, mineral land policy, and elections. Dr. Rekun, welcome once again to SEPSA Talk.
Thank you, Evans, for having me.
Great. And thank you all thank you all for your time today. And also, I must say that we are streaming live on Facebook at SEPSA Africa. And also, those of you who follow AK Mensah, he has shared this on his timeline. Before we start the discussion, I would like to read a little background to this topic. I decided to skip that and then do this at this point in time, since we are streaming live, to have all of us follow this. Now, despite the active participation of a number of political parties and independent candidates in both the presidential and parliamentary elections in Ghana since 1992, two main political parties, the National Democratic Council and the New Patriotic Party, have dominated the Fourth Republic. In fact, over the last 2 decades, there is an increasing decline of a third force in Ghana's political system, given the recent election outputs. Given that a competitive multi-party system is key for an effective democratic governance, we discuss in this episode the origin, consequences, and how to break the political duopoly in Ghana. And gentlemen, let me welcome you once again to SEPSA Talk.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Great. So we would start right away. And I would like to begin with you, Dr. Rekun. For this very round, the question we ask is that why is Ghana's party politics in the Fourth Republic dominated by a de facto two-party system? I mean, obviously this might not be unique to only Ghana, but we ask the question, why do we have this de facto dual political party system in Ghana, Dr. Rekun?
Yeah, Evans, thank you so much. I think it's an interesting question. And I mean, like you said, this is not unique to Ghana. I think it's a situation that pertains to many democratic dispensations. But when it comes to Ghana in particular, I can list about 4 main reasons why this is so. And I think, first of all, we have to look at it from the historical perspective with respect to the political history of Ghana. I mean, right from even before independence, Ghana has been dominated by 2 main political traditions. Actually, we have the CPP, which is the socialist traditional orientation. And then we have the UGCC, even before independence, that seemed to hold some kind of liberal ideological orientation. And when you look at the historical processes, these 2 political traditions have gained root in the Ghanaian political culture to the point that they seem to have dominated all the elections from 1951 and then up to now. So when you talk about the Fourth Republic, which actually started in 1992, we can say that, you know, as we change into Fourth Republic, these same traditions found their way into the political processes in Ghana. So you can see the NDC that you mentioned, I mean, seem to hold allegiance to the, socialist dimension, and they call themselves social democratic. And you see the MPP also saying they are kind of a right-based, and then they are property-owning democracy with this kind of liberal tradition. So these 2 political, traditions, found their way into the Fourth Republic automatically because they have the deep-seated political support within the Ghanaian political dispensation, right even from the time we were fighting for independence. So I would say that having these 2 political parties dominating in the Fourth Republic is something that has a historical antecedent, and we need to recognize this as a cause of the 2 political parties dominating in Ghana right now. But another thing we can talk about is also, generally, we can see that, on the ideological spectrum, we usually have the center parties, the leftward parties, and the rightist parties. The leftwards actually believe in socialism. The the rightists believe in conservatism, and then, I mean, when you come to the center, basically they go, I mean, both ways, liberals, conservative, and then, but you can see that over time, we have seen almost all the leftist political parties actually dissolving across the world. And the rightists, the truly rightist parties also, I mean, fizzling out. So now almost all the political parties have come to find themselves at the center of the ideological spectrum. Okay, and it's not only in Ghana. So those with the rightist orientation, for instance, push a little bit towards the right. Okay, supporting some conservative, and then those at the left also push a little bit towards the left. I mean, proposing some socialist orientation. In Ghana, for instance, the situation is even much more loud because we can see that almost all the political parties have come to locate themselves at the center of the ideological spectrum. Because of that, they propose ideas or policy decisions that are both leftwards and others are also rightwards. So, I mean, with that kind of cluster, where all the political parties are trying to find their ways at the center, it is likely that only the dominant parties that I mentioned, the NDC NPP, will automatically be able to dominate the process. The smaller ones will not be able to be pushing these things around. But one thing I want us to also recognize is that much of the problem we have in Ghana, as with respect to the geopolitical system, is that, I mean, the electoral process or system that Ghana adopted from at the Fourth Republic, which is the first past the post political system. Okay, the winner takes all approach, for instance, is actually a particular cause of the kind of duopoly we are seeing in Ghanaian political history. You know, the first past the post political system said that if, I mean, the one with the majority support in the election, I mean, is the winner, and that party takes everything. Okay, so it's a winner takes all. They let the president appoint the minister, appoint the DCs, appoint the chief executive of government institutions, and that the other parties that couldn't actually win the election, but also has some kind of support or voting share in the poll, tend to have nothing. Okay, they lose everything, even though they have some kind of support. So that is also a cause. In other democracies, they have a proportional representative system. Your membership in the state legislature is determined by the number of votes you obtain during the election, which means that any political party that is able to win a portion of the vote is able to have some kind of representation in the National Legislative Assembly. Okay, well, in Ghana's first past the poll system, even when a party gets 30% of the vote, okay, and the other party got 35, and then even another one got 35, we say that it is only the top in a party that actually gain all the support and become the president, appoint all these. This is not good for our multi-party democratic system. And so this is where maybe I will land you so that, I mean, as we move on, I mean, other people can also share ideas and we can talk about this thing even much deeper.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Reku. And I would definitely come back to you for a follow-up, particularly on the point on the proportional democracy, which we've also discussed on CEPSA Talk some few weeks back. I come to you, Professor Opoku Entry, and Dr. Reku has already made two fundamental points, which he says that the winner takes all, and perhaps the ideological spectrum is the reason why we are having this duopoly political party system with the National Democratic Congress and the New Patriotic Party, you know, dominating the Fourth Republic. What do you say to those reasons he's given, and in addition to your own reasons, why are we facing this, even though it's not a unique system in Ghana?
Thank you very much, Evans. And I want to recommend Dr. Reku for those points. I think the centrist approach is what most democratic countries are moving on for, because the duopoly is not for Ghana alone. Most democratic countries, even in America here, where we use the Electoral College, we still have the same problem where the president, have enormous power and appoint a lot of governors. And even though we have other district level and state level elections. But I think that the centrist approach is one of the reasons. We're talking about the duopoly in Ghana. So I want to stick to Ghana issue because of time factor. As we speak now, we have 24 political parties that are listed on the website of the Ghana's Electoral Commission, 24. And the 24 comprises MPP, NDC, CPP, DFP, DPP, Eagle Party, DG, GRDP, GCPP, GFP, GMP, IPP. So as I speak, and I continue to talk about the initials, how many do you recognize? That is question number one. How come that we have 24 listed and there are others that are currently not listed, but they were independent political parties that are no more? And that I'm talking about GRP, NCP, NIP, NRP, some emerged and some broke away. How come that we still hear just the majority talking about from 1992 that we came to constitutional, system, only MPP and NDC are dominating? There's a reason why. The first reason is that each of these two political parties knows their rivals' motive and actions. The duopoly exists when the two political parties knows each other's motive and actions. Remember, political parties are just two sides of persuasions, or three sides, or even 10 sides, depending on the number of groups that are contesting. You come with ideas, policies, and values that you want to espouse to the people that this is what I want to do if you vote me into power. And then the people will assess your policies, your manifestos, and then your ideals and vote for you. Remember that leadership is always in place to do what the people want. So if you want to lead, you think about what do my people want? And the reason why I said that they are rivals is that when it becomes two, the duopoly, you have to know each other's motives. It's just like business. Politics, business, relationship are the same. It's all about expectations. So once you get to know the motives and the action that they are doing, if you want to compete with them fiercely neck on neck, you have to adopt their own strategy of actions and motive. And that is why you see that they're stealing ballot papers. People are being barred from other countries to come and register. We have many allegations and insults on radio and TV. And every station that you see these things, I have been a morning show host before. Every program, we have an NDC person and an MPP person debating for their political party. What happens to the other political parties? You don't see them. Why? Because the radio stations and the TV stations know that the majority of the people want to listen to ideas from NDC and MPP. We don't give the others chance. Then another problem is that those who belong to the other smaller parties, I'm using smaller in quotes, are absorbed by these big political parties. Talk about Kwaku Bako and Kwasi Pratt. Don't they align themselves to MPP or NDC in their newspapers and everything that they do, but they claim to be CPP. Why are they not championing the cause of CPP? There's a reason why. So that is one thing. And then we have another thing that they are in a cutthroat competition. So if you want to be part of them, you need to know how to compete with them on their own level. And unfortunately, all the 24 political parties, the other 22 that I talked about, have not been able to compete neck on neck with these people. Now, let me ask you a question. Apart from MPP and NDC political colors, how many of these other colors do you recognize when you see them? Just the flag of the political parties. How many do you recognize just on a cursory look that this is this political party's flag? How many, apart from NDC and MPP, how many do you recognize? And maybe CPP, because CPP has been there for a while. So that is another issue that we have to talk about. Then there's not much of a policy differentiation between the two. If you talk about NDC and MPP, their policy, there's no difference. Just a little bit of twist, but it's the same. Because they want to compete neck on neck. We're talking about competition to win an election. If you talk about Democratic Party and Republican Party in America, if you talk about Britain and all these other countries, they are competing with ideas. And if you want to compete with them, you need to know how the game is played. That is important. The other thing is that their strategies and their tactics are similar. That is why there's a duopoly. The other one is that they don't want to work with the other party in a bipartisan way. So he made that point about the winner takes all. Well, if I win, I have my people who work for me, so I have to appoint them. And this started right from independence in all the African countries, right from Nkrumah style. You help my political party to win, so I need to give job for the boys. And that is why the winner has been taken off. The effect is that there's moneycracy. There's so much money, and money wins instead of policies and values. So the duopoly is what we are having with this now. Now, there are also rooted in tribal lines. The duopoly is rooted in tribal lines. Remember NDC, the founder of NDC is from the Volta region. Now, if you look at the history, they pick people from the North and the Central region to be vice president. So they are claiming some regions to be their stronghold. If you look at MPP, they have the Dankwa, Buzia, Dombo tradition. So Dankwa is from the Eastern region, Buzia is from the Brahava region, and Dombo is from the North region. So if there should be a third political party that is supposed to compete with that, you need to claim a constituency, take a region. And once you take that region, you are going to know that this is going to be my stronghold. That is where to start from. And I want to give you an example of this. Bob Dole, when he contested with Clinton in 1996, Florida was his home state. And before he was able to get that, he had about 42.32%. And Clinton had 48.02%, just a difference of 5.7%. That is when Bob Dole party came to that. You need to win a base, because without the base, there's not going to be a pace. This is very important in politics. Without the base, and because ours is rooted in, tribal lines, you need a tribe or you need a region that can be your stronghold. That is the beginning of where you can break the duopoly.
Okay.
So we talk about other things when other people speak. So as Kofi is, working hard to contest for this election, it's a great, but that would be my advice for him. Get a region that will be your stronghold.
We will definitely get there. But before I move to Honorable Ghani, I wanted to just follow up a question with you, Prof. Thank you for your contribution and for the points that you've listed that are contributing to this duopoly political party system that we have. But I was a bit curious with the media angle, and I was wondering, is it a fault of the media or is the fault of the other political parties not showing up or being serious with the media? I didn't really get that point very well. If you could.
Yes, the media follows the trend. So it's not a fault of the media. I have been in Ghana, spoken at many places, at Joy and other places, talking about changing the content. If you follow my social media streams too, I talk about changing the content of our media. Last week, I talked about African media, bought, rented, or opinion press. Yes, we have a lot of opinions. We have a lot of situations where the politicians give money. In fact, even in America that I studied media, politicians give media more money than any other organization. And if you come to Ghana, I can tell you that apart from politicians, it's just the traditional medicines, those who sell the traditional medicines, and then some pastors that do sponsorship at radio and TV stations. So they get all the money from the politicians. That is why if you're an individual person who don't have money, it's going to be difficult to break through the duopoly because the system is coined in a way that money plays a bigger role when it comes to elections. And these two political parties have the money. Republicans have the money, Democrats have the money, MPP have the money, NDC have the money. Even in that same political party, those who have the money win elections. It's not those who don't have the money. So the trend is that our people look for money. It's a money crisis system. You see, it's a money crisis system. So there's a guy, Senghor, in Senegal. What he did was very simple. To break the duopoly in Senegal, he came to all the Senegalese people abroad, came to America, to England, to Canada, to other places in Europe. And then he talked to them that I am going to break this jinx. I need your support. If they don't vote for me, don't send them money back home because the pain will bring the change. That's why he was able to break in and win in Senegal and brought people from abroad who have different perspectives to rule with him.
Thank you very much, Prof.
But the media is just a piece of it. Okay. And the other places, that we can talk about.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. And we will definitely come to how to break this duopoly in Ghana. I come to you, Honorable Ghani, and a lot has been said, but what's your take on it? I mean, how did we get to where we are now? Why do we have a duopoly political party system in Ghana?
Thank you very much, Evans. And to the distinguished man who spoke earlier, Mr. Reku and Mr. Entry. I think they have pretty much said everything I have put on point to talk about. But I would largely veer towards one point each that they made, which I had to talk about actually. One is the history that has gotten us here, which Dr. Reku spoke largely about. So I wouldn't go too much into that. Because what I was going to say was that, you know, the duopoly didn't just happen. It's taking time to happen. The other thing that, interestingly, is the point you are raising with Mr. Entry, which I had wanted to talk about, was also the visibility which he has put as media. I guess the only point I want to say to sort of create some bridge between those is that, you see, when this whole thing, when Dr. Reku talked about this, the historical antecedent that brought us here, at that stage, it was largely an ideology sort of agenda. You know, we stand for social democrats, and we stand for what is now largely become a combination of liberals and conservatives. And those were the main ideologies. I think over time, what has happened is that things have moved away from purely the ideological sense of the word. Because if you took the NDC today and you took the NPP today, you really could not tell which one is a social democrat and which one really was a conservative or liberal or anything of the sort. So those era have passed on. What I think has evolved over time, which is something I think Mr. Entry was also trying to put across, is that they have moved away from the ideological standpoint, and there's a lot that has happened in the process. An example is the financial exclusivity that has happened within our political space. And that is to mean that over the years, these two parties, because of their large following and because of the history that generated that large following, have also accumulated large amounts of money. Whether via sponsorship or via any other means that we know about but cannot say largely in public. But what it has also meant is that it has meant that this has become a money game. And because it's a money game, the smaller parties which just came to the party in the Fourth Republic, we just came to the show in the Fourth Republic, now have two barriers. It's not an ideological barrier they have, because some of them have very good ideas, but the barriers they have are largely financial and also largely visibility. Now, when Dr. Entry was talking, he mentioned something I found quite peculiar, which was that, which of these flags do you recognize of the smaller parties? And that for me is visibility. However, he did indicate that it is not the fault of the media and it is the fault of the, but let me just say this. I think we all know for a fact in this country, and let's not call a spade an agricultural spoon, that a lot of our media is quite polarized as well. Now, for me, that takes away the essence of the media being in a position to actually direct nations and their agendas nationally, because the media it's in itself a machinery for forming consensus and for forming, how do I call it, a following. And so the media does have power to determine whether the populace swing in one direction or swing in the other direction. We've seen it happen in several countries. And so for me, I think one of the other things that has ensured that, you know, the duopoly has been entrenched is that a lot of these political parties have gone on to own part of the media because they understand that this is the machinery to ensure that they can manufacture consent and that they can guide the process of choice. And let's not play down that fact that indeed the media is a major tool in the forming of choice, on the forming of consent. So that is one area that I think the political parties have entrenched themselves in, and therefore it kills the visibility of the smaller parties. Now, politics is largely all about visibility. If you don't have visibility, nobody will recognize your flag, like Mr. Entry said. And if they don't recognize your flag, that's you down the drain. And let me just also add, and again, this is just saying it as blunt as it is that over the years, my view is that over the years, what has also happened, even though it may not be the big picture, but what has also happened is that some of the smaller parties who we felt had some level of hope for Ghanaians who did not align with the NDC or the MPP, at some point in their journey may have felt that they actually don't stand a chance against the big political machinery of these two and the big financial capabilities of these two. And therefore, most of them have gone into some sort of buy and sell. So they buy themselves out into the election process and win a few votes, and then they sell it over to the big parties and get a job or a post here and there. That has become a norm. Let's not deny it. It has become a norm that we all see, we all experience every election cycle. As a matter of fact, when I started when I made my announcement in March of 2019, one of the constant questions I kept having was, are you also doing this so that at the last minute you can sell our votes to any of the bigger parties? So these things have also meant that the smaller parties have shot themselves in the foot, whether intentionally out of greed or a realization of the fact that this is our reality now, even though I have a different reality to all of that. So there is a bit of history to this, as Dr. Professor Wireku has stated. There is a bit of visibility in terms of media support or media movement of consent and choice. That Mr. What's the name again? Mr. Entry has talked about, Dr. Entry has talked about, but there is also the smaller parties that have shot themselves in the foot by, deciding too early to give up, in my view. I think they just gave up in the process. So for me, there's so many to talk about, but for the purposes of time, I think I would leave it here. I don't think our constitution have also been a help to this, because one of the things I have constantly said is that, the monocracy agenda to this whole problem could have been solved if our constitution had, shaped it well. But I'm sure we'll talk about that in the latter stage when we talk about the ways forward. So I'll leave it there for now.
Absolutely, and thank you very much, Honorable
Evans,
for your input. I'll come to you, Dr. Wireku, but I just wanted to have a follow-up question to Honorable Ghani when you are about to end, touching on the fact that most of these smaller parties also, the perception out there is that they want in the end to sell their votes or their ideology to a larger or a bigger political party in order to gain some form of, to gain something. And you said you've been asked a number of times, I know this is not what we are discussing, but how do you convince others? Because yes, there are a lot of people who feel that people come in as independent candidates or smaller parties only later to align themselves with a bigger political party to just gain some position or something. And that's why perhaps people do not take you serious. And what do you tell them when you get most of these questions?
Well, it's a tough one, Mr. Evans, I must say. But the way we have gone about it is to get people to see, the history of my integrity, because it's hard to show somebody what the future holds when you don't have a mystery glass in your hand or a juju pot in your hand. So it's a hard thing to sell. What we've done is to say to people, look, here is a history of my integrity. When I say I'm going in direction A, I have always gone in direction A. And so get people to understand that I am not here for that sort of game. If I was, there was no need to even start this, because, I could say we have colleagues in the NPP and the NDC who have taken those paths. If I did want to take those paths, I would have done that without necessarily having to launch in this manner and go the long haul. Nobody wants to do these things that some of us are doing. So if it was just a matter of wanting to be part of the NDC or the NPP, this is not the way to go about it. I could have easily gone into any of them, picked up a card, worked my way inside out, and then find myself in the position I wanted to find myself. But so it's largely a game of trying to assure people of your level of integrity. But what has happened is that over the last 1 year, people have begun to see the level of our integrity in what we're doing, and have advised themselves in terms of whether they believe that I'm doing this for personal gain or not. But it's a hard goal to sell. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And before I go to my other question to all of you, Dr. Rekun, I give you a minute or two for some additions or rebuttals.
Yeah, I actually wanted to register another support to the visibility issue that was discussed by both Prof. and Kofi Jan. So, in addition to the media coverage that the smaller parties do not get in elections, there's also additional hindrance to their participation in elections, especially when it comes to debate, presidential debate and so forth. Over the years, we have also seen that even the minority parties or even the third parties are not being given the opportunity to debate, head to head with the big guys. Okay, even more recently in 2016 election, where we saw IEA giving them the opportunity, we saw that IEA rather created a separate platform for the smaller parties to compete among themselves, instead of competing, shoulder to shoulder with the big guys. Okay, so when that happens, you still, provide some kind of discrimination or exclusion to the smaller parties who are already facing, challenges because of the media coverage they do not get, because of the money they may not have to be able to sponsor their media support. So, as we move forward, this is also one area we should look at in order to maximize the extent to which we can make the smaller parties obvious within our political dispensation. I just wanted to register that so that we also focus on that as well.
Yeah. Quickly, let me speak a little bit, Evans, on behalf of the media. I think that I brought it up, and I need to be fair with the whole thing. It is true that Radio Good was owned by Atuahoe. It's a fact. Now, I'm just giving that as an example. If Atuahoe owns his radio station and he has a political party, and there's an election, obviously he's going to, speak for issues that favor him. We recently saw the Asasi Radio. Nobody has been able to tell us who owns it. There is Wuntumi radio station now in Kumasi that is being used to speak about MPP issues. So what Kofi said is right. You have political parties that have established their own media stations to speak for them. So what do you do if you want to break the duopoly? I put the question there.
I guess we'll come to that, and maybe I'll put that question to you again, what we will do. But thank you very much, Dr. Rekun, and I must say that I think it's something which they are also trying to correct. I recently heard that Imani Ghana or Imani Africa and Joy FM, for example, are putting up a presidential debate for independent candidates and the smaller parties. So yeah, I think it's something that the media is also trying to catch up with that. But I move to my second question, and this time around, I begin with you, Professor Opoku Entry. You already touched on some of the consequences of these duopoly political party system, which you said brings about the monetization or the monocracy, which Honorable Ghani also touched on. So my question to all of you is that if this is not a unique system, if in the US, in the UK, you've mentioned other countries, we see this duopoly political party system. Should we worry? What are the consequences of having this duopoly political party system?
There are many consequences, but I want to say that we cannot compare apples with oranges. In the advanced country system, it's about values and policies. So Republicans talk about values, and Democratic people talk about policies. If you want to go the policy way, you have to know the language of policy and how it works, and then the people you're dealing with. I attended a conference at one of the universities in Michigan that one of the guys, one of the African presidents who won the Mo Ibrahim Award for Leadership in Africa was a panelist with me. And we discussed this about how should African democracy be? I think that question has not been able to be answered. We are deeply rooted in culture. And some of the values in our culture are not relevant in the 21st century. So if you want to bring our culture, our beautiful culture, into our politics, how should that be? So to break the duopoly, let's look at our cultures and see how we can fix some of these things. I believe that what I said about visibility, and Kofi agreed and Dr. Reku also agreed, is very important. As we speak now, we even have Council of Elders for both political parties. Do the other parties have it? They don't. We also have the students' wing, TAIN for NDC and TESCOM for MPP. Do the other political parties have? They don't have it. We also have the international affiliations. The other parties don't have it. Even their slogans, the other parties, we don't hear of them. They also have their anthem. So talking about, if you want to break something, look at the cause, the root cause, the remote cause before we talk about the immediate cause. The anthem of MPP and NDC talk about arise, arise for Ghana. And then MPP have their own slogan. Do the other parties have it? They don't have it. And then they have youth wings that the others don't have it. From 1992 to now, as we speak, we have 169 MPs for MPP, and then we have 106 MPs for NDC, 0 for the other parties.
True.
So, that is the big question, the elephant in the room. What is causing that? Can't we start from members of parliament where other people can start from the grassroots and then win some areas and gain constituency? Because Kofi is doing a yeoman's job. We all love to do this. We all want to break this so that we can come up with ideas that will help other African countries. I want Africa to be like America. I want Africa to be like Europe. Truth be told, there's no need for any African to travel to America or Europe to stay there. All of us will testify to this. But we have a situation where the corruption is coming from this duopoly. Because parties are corrupt. They are. They understand the game of corruption, and that is why, listen to what Atua Hotbook is saying. Somebody comes in and says that all the 100, Atua Hotbook is saying that 100 people who were supposed to be prosecuted by Professor Mills, he's trashed them all. That's not, I want peace. We've had a special prosecutor. Many people are being caught. Nothing will come out of it. Because both political parties understand. And I can tell you that even in election, you have some MPP people supporting NDC people in some constituencies with money, and some NDC supporting MPP with money. They all play the same rule. So how do we break it? Couple of things we have to do.
We'll come to, Prof, we'll come to how to break it. Let me get the thoughts of Honorable Ghani and Dr. Reko on some of the consequences. And thanks for that. You rightly mentioned that corruption is a main consequence of these duopoly, and the fact that they look at values and policies, which makes it incomparable to that of Ghana and other African countries. So Honorable Ghani, what do you think are some of the consequences of these duopoly political party system before we come to how to break it? Or you feel there are no consequences at all?
Thank you, Evans. There are consequences. And, funny enough, the consequences all feed into each other. And I will state that very clearly and very succinctly. Let me just start by saying that let's not for 1 second think that the system is broken. The political system is not broken. The political system is doing exactly what it has been set up to do, which is to conquer, to minimize any form of other entry, and so there is some level of monopoly. It's doing exactly how it was created to operate. So let's be clear about that. Now, in terms of the consequences, there's a lot we can talk about. I want to start by saying that it does restrict the choices that we offer the Ghanaian people. And I talk about choices in the sense of the personnel, because we are so divided in our politics that if you are an executive and you largely have people who are not from your party, they don't get to play a role in the administration of the state. So there is a restriction in the quality of personnel. It also means that there is obviously a restriction in the quality of ideas and, of course, policies that emanate from the people whom you bring on board. That's the very biggest thing for me. What does happen as a result of that is also that as a result of that, real problems do not get solved as a result of that. Because at the end of the day, Mr. Evans, there's only two of us. We can argue for all we care. If we don't get the problem solved, it's not going to matter because look, whether people decide that, okay, I am the one in charge today, they don't want me anymore, they're just going to go to the next guy, which is you. And more often than not, after 8 years, they're going to leave you anyway and come to me. So, you know, there's no incentive for real problems to be solved. And we've seen it over and over again. We've gotten now, as a result of this duopoly, a politics of comparatives, which is that if NDC does something, MPP will bash them. There will be a whole conversation about how we did less of what you're talking about or how we did more of what you're talking about. And then after 2 weeks, it dies down. The real problem never gets solved. So those are the things, you know, the restriction in the quality of personnel, ideas, and policies. And as a result of that, real problems never get solved. And as a result of that also, at some point, which is what we're seeing now, citizens begin to disengage from the democracy process because you cannot be voting for 27 years and after 27, 28 years, you don't see the essence of what your vote has gotten you. So that's the third level in my understanding of how this has become an issue. You know, restriction in choices, restriction also in the solving of problems, citizens get disengaged. And once that happens, the final blow comes, which is the fact that, you know, there is a lowering of the standard of governance because at the end of the day, citizens are not engaged in the process. They don't even want to know. As a matter of fact, if you talk to people these days, one of the things they tell you is that, look, as for voting in Krapo, we are not going to vote. They just want their card so they can use as ID. And so there's by that process alone, a disengagement from even democracy itself. And so if the political parties who come into power decide, you know what, we'll just play at the lowest level of governance, they really don't see an incentive to go higher than that because the people they are supposed to be serving with that level of quality service don't even have any engagement anymore. So for me, those are the four levels of results that you find as a result of the duopoly we currently have.
All right, thank you very much, Honorable Ghani, and these are wonderful points there. So real problem never gets solved, lowering of standard of governance, and you talked about voting apathy as some of the consequences of these duopoly political parties. Dr. Reku, what's your take on that?
Yeah, Evans, I totally agree with both of them on the point they've raised. Actually, it's particularly Mr. John, who talks about the voter apathy. I mean, voter apathy, I would call it like exclusion. It actually leads to exclusion of, people with different opinion and ideas from the two main political parties. In Ghana, for instance, we have been lucky because our voter turnout has been high over time. But you can see that if we should continue this way, you see that many people who may have, different, who may not be satisfied with the status quo may not turn out to vote any longer. And has become more costly to vote right now, where people have to be in long queues before they can cast their vote. If we should continue like this, it's likely that, people will not go to the poll in order to cast their vote. And so we need to break that. But also, like Professor Andrew talked about, corruption. You know, there's something called you scratch my back, I also scratch your back. It's also called equalization, you know, and so we kind of see some of these things over time. Okay, like, Prof talk about when, I mean, Professor Mills came into office and there were some MPP people who may have committed some kind of corruption, you leave them. So the next time when it also happens to you, you're expecting that the other party also, I mean, leaves you to go scot-free. And if we continue like this, it's not going to be auguring well for our political dispensation. And so we need to, I mean, expand the scope in order to allow people with different political orientation and ideas to be able to participate in the political process. If not, I mean, these people or these two political parties that we have will not be able to lead us to the end we are all expecting the political parties to be. So, I mean, these are the few things I would like to add to what the other participants have already talked about.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rekun. And before we get to the final round, which is how to break this duopoly political party system we have in Ghana, we have Edmond on the line who would like to ask Professor Opoku Antwi a question. But I just wanted to, before I get you on the line, Edmond, I wanted to read something from Facebook, which is interesting because then our final round is to see how to break it. But you have Francis Eduofe, who says that there's no need to break the duopoly that we have. This is quite interesting. And then you have Michael Faraday Dujemfi, who says, I think issues of visibility and monocracy are just ancillary factors and not substantive. Give whatever to some people I know, they won't vote certain parties. Voting and duopoly is socio-cultural. And then one also said, thank you, sir. Democracy is deep-rooted in our culture, which is largely archaic in the 21st century. So let me see if we have Edmond on the line. Edmond.
Hello. Yeah, I'm on the line.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. My question is first to Professor Antwi, who alluded to the fact that for a smaller party to make note in Ghana, you need to align yourself with a geographic location. And my question to you is that from experience, we know that the problem we have in Ghana is not much with geography than with identity. So people will vote for whoever they want to vote for, no matter where they are in the country. So wouldn't it be good that new or smaller parties create new identities which they align themselves to, rather than saying, I pick this region and I want to make this region my stronghold? Because I mean, to the best of my knowledge, all the regions in Ghana are already taken, and you are not going to appeal to people just because you pick a region. So what would be your take? Will it be still the old approach, MPP, Ashanti region, NDC voter region, so maybe a smaller party go take northern region? Or you would say we need to create a new identity and appeal to this identity? That's my question.
Well, thank you very much, Edmond. There are two ways of looking at this. If you look at lawyers, they look at precedents, cases that has happened before, and they use that to make present judgments. I am a leadership professor, and we look at trends in leadership to predict what is going to happen in future. So let's look at a trend. And beautifully, Dr. Reku talked about the history. The trend of our identity has been tribes. Is it right? No. And before I conclude, I will talk about that. If you are, an Ewe, and so what? If you are an Ashanti, and so what? We all Ghanaians. But these political parties have been able to fool in such a way that, look at the strongholds. They are aligned to tribes. And that is why I said that before you were able to break it, if Kofi, who comes from the Volta region, is not able to even win his own town, hometown where he comes from, why do you think other people from other places will vote for them? Because if you come to America, you have to win the state that you come from. If you don't win the state that you come from, then there's a problem. So what is the identity that you're talking about? It comes from where we have demarcated ourselves into tribes. So if somebody want to win, I know that Brown Africa region is not that strong. Who's there? Go to the Brown Africa region, align yourself with the people of Brown Africa region. Once you get that region as yours, you'll be recognized. You see, you'll be visible from a region, because that is what MPP did to break that kind of monopoly of NDC. They got the Dankwa Buzia tradition, Dankwa Buzia Dombo tradition. So they have Dankwa from the eastern region, Buzia from Brown Africa region, and then Dombo from the northern region. Now, if you're able to identify 3 regions for yourself, is that not constituency that you can use to fight for power and win? So when we talk about identity, yes, ideas are great. but you yourself should be able to identify yourself with a certain region or tribe. I'm not instigating any tribal thing, but that is the trend there. Do we need to break it? Yes, we need to break it. But do you have to start from somewhere? Yes, your people where you come from need to recognize that you are a person of integrity, you are somebody everybody can trust, and then you pick other people from other regions who can also, that is how change happens. A sense of agency, you create that kind of people, a buy-in of the ideas, and then the law of momentum come to your side, and then you can refreeze the situation where it has been, and then bring the change process. So it's not that easy as you think, but everything is rooted in tribes, and you need to find yourself to break it.
Yeah. So I got your point, but I'm still not convinced, because I feel like, okay, if you align with a specific tribe, you still need to convince the rest of the tribes in the country. And my idea would be, for example, if you appeal to the middle class, because education has done a good job by eradicating most of these tribal identities, and now people feel like they identify themselves as Ghanaians, not as Ashanti or Afanti, whatever, so they are going to vote blindly. So I think we can take advantage of these new lines drawn to create a new identity of Ghanaians, or to appeal to a new identity, rather than choosing to appeal to the tribal identity. That's my...
I don't want you to get me right. I did not talk about identifying yourself with tribe. I talk about policies and values.
I get your point, but you were hooking it to like a specific
that he
origin.
can espouse. But you need to get people who will buy into your ideas, the buy-in. So the sense of urgency that, do we need change? Yes. Do you create a buy-in? Yes. People who follow that ideology. Then we need to change from the old norm, because the old way, the old right way, should become the new wrong way before change can begin. The old right way of the way we've done things should be changed. And what do? Education is part of every solution. So we are educating ourselves that tribal sentiment is not good, but I'm saying that you need to identify yourself with a region that is going to be your base, because without a base, there cannot be a pace in politics.
Okay, thank you very much, Edmond on the line. Thank you very much, Prof, also for the input. And so we come to that big question, how do we break this duopoly political party system? But I will start with you, Honorable Ghani, and the question is, I think it's clear here, there's no debate, we need to break this duopoly. But I ask two questions. Can we really break the duopoly? And how do we do that, at least for the short term or within the long term? What's your take on that? And yeah, Honorable Ghani.
Yes, Evans, thank you for leaving the hard question for me. Totally appreciate it.
So we had the easy questions, right?
No, he's intentionally giving me the question that he knows that it's a tricky one to answer. But let me just say, it's one of those questions that it's almost as though the chicken before the egg, or the egg before the chicken, because the reality, Evans, is that for this to actually happen, you do need somebody to get in there to make that happen. Because it's a lot easier when there is somebody with some acceptable level of integrity that is in there. The other angle to it, which is what Nkrumah and his crew did back then, which can be replicated, is to get a critical mass politically to sort of get into the political stream of things, and which is why I'm happy in a way that in this year, I see quite a lot of people who are stepping forward as independent MPs, for example, to wrestle power from the traditional party MPs. And then for me, that is a hugely positive thing. Positive in the sense that there are all this number of people who feel that something wrong has been happening and therefore they need to go out there. What we've had in the past is that you've had one or two people dropping in, and once you drop in as a single lion, you get swarmed and you get swallowed up. So I'm happy that this time around is happening at the independent level, presidential level, and also happening at the parliamentary level. So for me, that is hope that something can come out of this and will come out of this. I'm very determined and hopeful. But To answer the question how this can be done, if this was going to be done, it would start from some changes to our constitution. That hasn't happened in either of the NDC and the NPP's tenures, both in the past and in the present. And so for me, it is just going to show that they are happy with the status quo and would like it entrenched as long as they can hold on to it. Because one of the things I've constantly said is that if you look at, we've all talked about party financing or political financing or election financing here. One of the things I would have loved to see our constitution do is to move to the stage where it starts to have a cap on how much anybody can spend in order to be able to, deliver their vision or to be able to run for office, whether at the parliamentary level or the presidential level. Because what that does is that it evens out the playing field, at least to some extent. Currently, as it is being left, it is, the one who has the most money, who has the most chance, even though we're trying to destabilize that, and others are also doing the same. So for me, that is one key thing that needs to get that. The other thing, and this is where I say that one needs to get in there, and I hope that Ghanaians also see that picture, is that you see, once somebody gets in there who has the agenda to purely make sure development happens across country, what immediately happens as a result of that is that politicians lose their essence, because if you can make decentralization happen and allow development to happen region by region without, the necessity for, attaching it to a political person or a political party or political grouping, you have suddenly just waned down all the essence that gets people to be attached to political parties. So this is a difficult question to answer, largely because for me, it will take a good number of a critical mass of people who are willing, people like every one of you here, who are highly skilled, who have a high level of professionalism and integrity, and who can go in there. But again, I am encouraged largely by the fact that as I speak today, I know there's quite a good number of people who are stepping up the plate to run, not necessarily just at the presidential level, but also at parliamentary level. So for me, that's what is going to be taking a critical mass of people, some changes to our constitution, and by all means, a decentralized process that ensures that we don't only have political decentralization, but we also have financial decentralization that takes, the focus on Accra and the politicians that are based at, the job 700 and the Flagstaff House. That is going to be crucial.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ghani. Just a follow-up question. In terms of the changes to the constitution, you see only the financial cap as a way to deal with it. What are the other?
Not necessarily, actually. We also have the issue of an appointed executive having to pull 50% of his cabinet from 50% plus one from Parliament. That in itself, and let's not forget that the Constitution was created for a military man who wanted to wear civilian clothes. So yes, he did want to have his own crew still with him. And so some of these crap things have outlived their purpose and need to be changed. But that clause, for example, and amongst other clauses, the other clauses I wouldn't want to talk about right now, but that clause, for example, could also have read that, if an executive comes into office, he has two options. One, he can choose people outside of Parliament so that parliamentarians can focus on their lawmaking work. Or indeed, if he wanted to choose from Parliament, then he has to have a balance from all the people in Parliament or representatively in Parliament. And these are things that effectively would ensure that, the winner takes it all approach actually does see from a constitutional perspective. So there are a lot of things that need to change in our constitution. I'm not sure if we have the time for that, but those are the few ones that immediately speak to the issues we are talking about.
Thank you very much. And I like the aspect of bringing in the appointment of ministers from parliament as it's enshrined in our constitution. And so, I mean, just to ask again, so if an independent candidate becomes a president, he's required to select 50 plus ministers from parliament, right? And they necessarily do not have to belong, because obviously they will not belong to, as an independent candidate. This is the case, right? This is what you explained.
Yes.
So he'll be forced to pick people who don't even believe in his ideas. That's totally wrong.
But let me just say on that point, Evans, that contrary to what people think, an independent candidate actually stands in a better stead because of the lines along which our politics is divided. If you have an NDC executive coming into power, 99% of the chances that he's going to pick 99% of his parliamentarians to run office. The same would apply to the NDC or the others. And we both know that both do not have all the men on their side. The beauty for me about an independent candidate, if he is able to pick those he wants from parliament, is that he actually has an opportunity, because there is no alienations, to pick the best from either of the sides to get that done. So for me, there are advantages to this process. Mr. Enchi was saying most of them do not believe in fact, I had an MP who was hitting at me some time back and saying, if you bring your budget to parliament, we won't approve it. And the simple question I put to him is, how do you get paid yourself? So, our system does have some checks and balances themselves. You can't say you are crippling the executive and expect that you are going to do well as a parliamentarian. It's not going to happen, So, but I just wanted to point out those advantages of being an independent and having the possibility of choosing the best from both sides.
Okay. Thank you very much, Honorable Gandhi. So I come to you, Dr. Rekun. What's your take on it again? And I repeat the question. Like I said, it's non-negotiable that we need to break the duopoly political party system that we have here. But the question is, can we break it? Is it possible? And how do we achieve that?
Yeah, thank you, Evans. Yes, I think it's going to be very difficult to break this duopoly, okay, because of the deep-seated nature of the duopoly we have in the political dispensation. Like I said, it has a historical antecedent, okay, and it's been, entrenched in our political system. That you can see that even the third parties keep losing support over time. Right now, they don't even have any representation in the legislature, okay? And their performance in the election is very small, about 3% or even less, okay? So this is a big issue. And because of the nature of the situation, it requires a lot of work to be able to break this duopoly. But it's possible. I won't say it's not possible. It's difficult, but it's possible. The possibilities has to do with, people like Mr. Jen, who has, come out boldly to contest as an independent candidate. And the fact that the smaller parties have also lost interest in politics and they keep, participating in the election. This is a good sign for us to break the duopoly. But that is not enough. We need, because of the deep-seated nature of the issue, we need a deep-seated, kind of solution to this issue, which has to do with what? Kind of conscious change in the ideology of the people, in the ideas and then kind of the frame of mind of the people. So it needs, a more fundamental campaign educational campaign, and that campaign should not happen only at the level of campaign, that is during election time, but also, I mean, going to the basic root of our political society, such as the municipalities, I mean, the schools and others, I mean, trying to change the consciousness of the people. So it should come in the words of act, literature, I mean, in conferences, I mean, everywhere, so that people can switch their, I mean, ideological position and or even voting pattern to suit smaller parties. Okay, and when it comes to that issue of, I mean, changing the consciousness of people, I'm saying that, you know, over time, we should be able to break this, I mean, thing. When we look at the duopoly that we have in Ghana, for instance, you see that, I mean, voters are getting dissatisfied over time. You know, I've been hearing people say that, you know, the NPP and NDC are no different. Okay, they are just the same people trying to take over, I mean, the affairs of the state, and so they come and favor the other party, and then they basically drawing the country to nowhere. That's what some people think right now. And I'm saying that with this kind of momentum, okay, when voters are dissatisfied, over time, they will be likely, or even they will be, I mean, tenable to change. And that's where the role of, I mean, independent candidates and smaller parties trying to change the consciousness will help. I mean, will interact with that that kind of perception, and we can see some kind of change within the political choices of the people. And when that happens, I mean, smaller parties will have the opportunity to partake in the election and also influence government. But I think one fundamental, I mean, change we can make to our political system is to switch to something similar to a proportional representative system. You know, the first past the post does not give opportunity for smaller parties. Okay, so when you see this duopoly, it's largely associated with countries with first past the post electoral system. Okay, whereby the winner takes all, takes everything. So if NPP gets, I mean, 50% of the votes, and then the other parties get 26 or even 24%, I mean, they are totally neglected when there's when the election is over. I mean, this is not going to be helpful. We need to make sure that people who voted also get some kind of representation in government. So if the number of, I mean, MP or the number of ministers have to be given to the other smaller parties based on the level of vote or the extent to which people voted for them, that could actually encourage people to vote. Because right now, when people even think that, I mean, when you don't vote for either NPP or NDC, you are basically wasting your vote. You are basically wasting your vote. That alone tells you that, I mean, people who are dissatisfied will just, I mean, not vote, okay? And over time, that could be disastrous for our political dispensation. So switching to a proportional representation, whereby, I mean, everybody knows that my vote will at least have some kind of influence after the election, because at least the number of votes that my candidate will get, he will be able to shape the political processes, because some portion of the ministerial portfolios or MPs shall be allocated to that party. I mean, that way it's encourage people to vote, because they know that their vote is going to have an impact on them. So if we can change, I mean, over time toward a proportional representative system of government, I believe that, I mean, it is going to create avenue for smaller parties to also partake in the election, I mean, at various levels, okay, either at the ministry level or at the parliamentary level. And so we can move towards that direction, and that will help the country. So these are the few things I want to talk about with regards to, I mean, creating opportunity for smaller parties to partake in election.
Thank you very much. But just a follow-up before I allow Honorable Ghani to come in, because I saw that he wanted to make some submission to it. You talked a lot also in the first round about this proportional representative system. I'm just curious, how do we achieve that? Is it through a constitutional change, through an EI, or through LI? How do we achieve this wonderful system that you seem to propose?
Yeah, it has to come to the constitution. Okay, it will require a constitutional change. Okay, because right now the constitution says that whoever gets 50 plus 1 vote, I mean, wins everything. And they are supposed to, I mean, appoint the ministers, I mean, from parliament and elsewhere. Okay, so this is a constitutional issue. So if you want to switch towards a proportional representation, which probably says that whoever, I mean, wins the election, let's say 20% of the election, will have, let's say 20% of the number of ministers to be appointed to run the affairs of the state. You know, that way we say that the smaller parties' vote will count, okay, and they'll be able to shape the government process and be able to bring their ideas on board. And people who voted for them will also have the enthusiasm and will be happy that they even casted their vote. Because right now, if you vote for a smaller party and that party is unable to win the election, basically you have wasted your vote. And why will you go and queue in that long process, and then at the end of the day, your vote, it doesn't even matter? I mean, that's one thing that can help if we can switch towards a proportional representative system of election. Yeah.
This is great. Thank you very much, Dr. Reko, for that explanation. You had something to say, Honorable Ghanio.
I just wanted to make a very quick point whilst I had the opportunity. First of all, let me just say that Mr. Professor Reko is right when he says there's quite a level of people not happy with the status quo right now. But I also want to say that that in itself is an opportunity to make sure something different happens. Because that is what we are asking to be done, is to have them channel that uneasiness or unhappiness with the status quo of the two that are causing the duopoly or that have entrenched the duopoly, to be able to get something different out of the process. What I want to say is that I think we need to also recognize that our demographics have changed in the last couple of years. We've got a very huge youth bulge now, who are neither tied to their parents. This is how our fathers have voted, and therefore this is how we're. Most of these young people just want life to work for them, and so let's not play down on that, because, you know, for me, that in itself is an opportunity. The disenfranchisement of people's passions against the democracy we have is also an opportunity in itself. However, just to go back to the point that Prof made, I just want to say very quickly that, you know, opportunities like what we are all doing here and that people are watching is actually one of those things that we can do to actually start shaping the mindset or the thought process. And so I don't think we are right when we say it's, for now, if it looks like if you don't cast a vote for one of the big parties, then you are actually wasting your vote. I think what we should be encouraging people to realize is that, yes, casting your vote is about you. It's about standing for what you believe in, whether or not the statistics are on your side or not. And so I just want to add to what Prof has said, that, you know what, nobody should feel that their votes are being wasted simply because they have voted for another person other than the NDC and the MPP. That is why it is your vote. It is your proof that, you know what, this is where you stood in time when you had to make a choice. So no, it's not a wasted vote. Yes, it's proof that, you know what, this is what prosperity must judge you for. Thank you very much.
Okay, so I think Evans dropped out, and I think the next question, the next person to submit is Professor Entry.
Well, thank you very much, Edmond. I want to say that we need a new way of thinking. Doing that, I want to submit a word, if, the power of if. The power of if. What if the people are tired of the limited choices and then they need a new one? What if the people have realized the blank side of events in our politics and then they need a change? What if the new person brings a new dream and a roadmap that points to where we can create a situation where everybody will be inclusive in the way we do things? Let's stop and think for a moment. What is going on here? Do we like our situation? What are the two parties trying to accomplish? Do we like it? Have they polarized our society? Do we need a third party that is going to bring that change? Do they see that sense of urgency where in the elections we have the margin of error of 4 which means that the party that wins will get about 52%, and then the party that loses will get about 48%. So for the next 4 years, the 48% will always be trying to pull down the 52% that won. What if we need a change from that? What if we can pick on the youth that are enlightened now and then identify ourselves with the youth and say, this is a youth party, we want to bring a change? What do you think is going to happen? Would that be able to break the duopoly? What if we can bring into our constitution new ways that we can bring representations from other places, as Dr. Rekun talked about? So let's think about the power of if. And I believe that if we bring other alternatives and we use education, and the youth are enlightened now, I keep saying I believe in the youth, there will be a change. Change is always a gradual process. It's not easy, but I will tell you this story, then I will let the others come in. There were two tight friends who used to do the same thing, just like we're talking about duopoly. And somebody said, I can break the friendship of these two people. You know what he did? The two were walking, he called one of them, whispered something into his ears. And then that guy started laughing because he didn't hear what the guy told him, but he started laughing. The other friend who was standing on the other side said, what did he tell you? And he said, he didn't tell me anything. So, well, he told you something, that's why you're laughing. But you don't want to tell me. If that is the case, then we are no more friends. He was able to break their friendship because he just whispered something. We need to whisper something into the ears of our people by bringing them concrete alternative. What if Kofi can bring the change that they've been looking for? What if Kofi can bring jobs that all the youth don't have? What if Kofi can bring a lot of employment? What if Kofi can change the educational system? I've seen his policies, and those are very great. We need to encourage these people, not jokers like Kwiadonko and the others. You know, joke. And sometimes when we allow some people who would not be able to change our situation just to talk, and other people make fun of us, I grow with you too much. So we are competing with the rest of the world. And then we have jokers who are in our politics, and we give them space and time. We don't have time to waste. Other people have taken the lead about 500 years. You want to catch up, you're the people who have concrete ideas who will come in and change the status quo. Does it make sense that a president picks over 50% of cabinet members from parliament? Wherein lies the checks and balances in there? Pick all the ministers, everybody from outside parliament, so that when parliament calls them, they can really pull them to do the right thing. Now everybody in parliament is trying to get attention of the president to be a minister, because if you don't get ministerial position, even your constituency don't recognize you. Our constitution is a mess up. 28 years of 1992 constitution, indemnity clause. How come that you become a president and nobody can even, you know, take you to court when you leave office and you embezzle money? How? Let's not forget that our constitution was written by people, most of them were not educated. That is a fact. And they wrote it for military people. Times have changed. 28 years down the lane, we're still using the same document. Come on, people. We need to stand up, cut all those crap off, compete to the rest of the world. All this institutionalized constitution that is not making us move forward. The old right way is the new wrong way. Let's fix it and move forward. I rest my case.
Thank you very much, Professor Opoku Antwi. And yeah, I guess that you rightly hit the nail on the head, the fact that we need a constitutional change. But how do we get there? Because correct me if I'm wrong, it was Professor Mills that put up the Constitutional Review Committee, and
it didn't work.
It didn't work.
Professor Mills put up the Constitutional Review, it didn't work. All the recommendations are sitting, collecting dust. Nothing happened to it. I thought that Ghanaians had opportunity when the president allowed them to vote nationally so that the MCEs could be elected. That was a good opportunity. I don't know why Ghanaians rejected that, because you have a situation where different constituencies or different districts, the MCE could be from any other political party that the people like. Now we give all the powers to the executive to appoint everybody from their political party. So we need to decentralize a lot. Decentralization is really key in the way we do things. In America, police system, school system are all run by the states, not the federal government. And then we collect state tax, local taxes, to develop our places. Amusement parks, everything is coming from the states and the local areas. If everything is coming from Accra, every money, every power is coming from Accra, how do we develop? I told you that story. Somebody come from Tatale, Sablugu Tatale in the north, travels like 2 days to Accra just to see the director of education to sign a document. For 1 week, he will stay in Accra and will not find the director. But the director also has his plan. I remember last 2 years, I spoke to the director of GS when I came to launch a book there about hands-on teaching and evidence-based learning in Africa. And I asked him, do you have what you do in a day, your schedule? He said, no. The director of GS sitting at his office, the minister calls him that there's this secondary school that needs me to talk. I need you to go there. The president wakes up in the morning, call the minister, I need you to go here and speak. So they come to work without a schedule because whatever the president said, they have to do it. What kind of system are we building? Nothing is planned. And if we don't plan our life, everything is left to chance, like a lottery. So we need to change our way of thinking. We need to plan very well and compete with the rest of the world. The way it is like, pansam. Everybody comes in as if we're doing something. People are busy working like 9 p.m. every day. Go to the ministries. But if they can tell you what they've been able to do from morning 8 a.m. to the 9 p.m., they can't tell you. There's no visible productivity, but time is wasted, people pretending to be working, and nothing comes out of it.
Thank you very much. Let me read some few comments from Facebook, and then I will allow Edmond to come in with a question for Honorable Ghani, and then I would ask you for your concluding remarks. But I would also ask some reactions from you. So from Francis Duopoly again, he says, let's help amend the constitution. Then we can make sense of our democracy. We've also touched on this. Blessed Beyond the Belief says, educated or not, Ghanaians vote based on tribal loyalties, not integrity, policies, manifesto, or vision. And then from another person, Maus Fosukwesi says, independent party clearly has a lot to do, not only being identified by a particular region. Independent candidates must come with innovative ways to break the system, with novel ideas that the masses can buy anything less than they will just come and go without any impact. Blessed again says, Ghanaians don't want development. We want free things and freedom to be corrupt. Barabbas is our choice. All right, so Edmond.
I'm here.
Yeah, all right, so go ahead with your question to Honorable Ghani.
So Honorable Ghani, my question will start with a preamble, and the preamble is that we've seen a lot of independent candidates in the past, but one thing that lacks, or that we see lacking, is a strategic plan from them and also consistency. Because you launched your campaign last year, March 2019, and you want to contest in 2020. For me, this is very short. And if I want to cast my vote for an independent candidate, I want to see the progression. I want to see last 4 years, I casted and we had 5%. The next 10 years, the next 4 years, it goes to 10. Then we see there is a progress. But as of now, we don't see any progress. It just appear and vanish, which is not helping. So my question to you is, what is your plan? Is it just one term and then you move out, or you have a strategic plan where you want to develop your vision or your ambition?
Edmond, thank you for the question. I will be sad if you did not vote to make sure that we.
I think we are having some technical challenge. Honorable Ghani. Okay, before we get Honorable Ghani back, and I don't know if you have any reactions to some of the comments that I read already, Dr. Rekon.
I think one comment somebody said that the people will vote for you based on tribe, no matter what. That's true. It's the painful fact that if you go to the northern region, your father will tell you that, look, vote for this party. And because our culture is such a way that whatever your parents align themselves to their political parties, you have to. I have always been for this, that there's a reason why somebody's an MPP. There's a reason why somebody's an NDC. The party maybe have helped them in many ways. That's the reason why we need to respect that. But moving forward, you are trying to bring a change to convince somebody who belongs to party A, let's say MPP or NDC, to change to your political party. And they have to see the value you are bringing that surpasses the old value they are getting from their political parties. And that is what independent candidates should be starting to work on. Somebody asked this question about Ghana, is he going to change or not? Now, if you look at the trend, most of the independent candidates, look at what happened to Guzitano. He was absorbed by MPP back. What happened to Danlati? He had a beautiful slogan, domestication. You know, let's buy made in Ghana in everything. Beautiful slogan. That is what Akufo-Addo is doing now. That all ministers and most MCs, you have to wear local dresses. They don't wear suit to work anymore. So some of these, you need a slogan that is very catchy. You need to bring an alternative that is more persuasive than the others that have been existing. Other than that, it's going to be quite difficult to break through. I think it's bad.
Yeah, thank you very much. So welcome back, Honorable Ghana.
Yeah, sorry. Internet was hollering in our place here.
No worries.
So
Go
what
ahead.
I was, so what I was saying to Mr. Edmond was that I think we miss out on the fact that every single 4 years that we allow to pass by and we say we want to see some progression, we are also allowing the system to get messed up some more. And so for people like yourself and I, we should not really be talking about we want to see progression before it finally happens, because the problems we are facing, the problems that have emanated up to this point, they don't slow down, they only build up. And so I do not share the notion that, you know, we need to see a small party come over and over and over again so we can see, because the reality also is this. If you don't bring people into office and they are in the background and we are saying that, you know, let's see how they are progressing over the years, we are never giving them the opportunity to actually see what they are capable of. You can't see what they are capable of if we keep keeping them in the background and re-entrenching the guys who are already there, who are the reasons why we're having this conversation. So for me, I think where we've gotten to now is to say, you know what, let's line up all the candidates. Let's look at their capabilities based on things they have done in the past. Let's see if they have what it takes to be able to deliver. And I think this is where we are at, rather than saying, you know what, let's see how you progress over time. I want to say to you right now that I am ready to go today. I am very ready to go today. And so if people like you will come on board and say, let's vote for this man, let's push this agenda, let's make this happen, because we don't have another 27 years to run and play with mediocrity, then we can get somewhere. But the other thing I want to say quickly is that the whole concept for me of vote wasting for people like us, it shouldn't be an issue, because we are of the new generation. We see that the world is moving very fast. One of the key things like people like you should be talking about, or we all should be talking about, is to say, you know what, who actually understands the way the world is operating, who actually understands how the world works right now, and who is not fixated in how the world has worked in the past, and who want to keep making it work the way it has always worked. And so it's a future agenda now, and so people like you and I should be championing the agenda to say, you know what, yes, he may, because look, if we want to talk about those who have political experience, the question we should then be asking ourselves is, what has that political experience achieved for us? If there are two political parties right now, two political persons right now who we can say have the best political graduation process up to this point, it will be the current president Nana and then His Excellency previous president, past President Mahama. The question, however, is that, are we looking for process or we are looking for deliverables? What has been delivered? Mm-hmm. And so I would leave it at that.
Thank you very much. And then
if I might, Evans, can I just quickly, like, I didn't mean to say I want to see your progression before I vote for you, but we all agree that even the MPP who is a who is the current ruling party, took some time before Ghanaians could finally give them the nod. So my question was, let's say it doesn't work in the first round or in this term, what is the long term? So that if I want to vow for a political party, if I want to vow for an independent candidate, I need to see, is there a way, is there a strategic plan? Because I don't think we can overthrow these two parties overnight, just the same way that MPP didn't overthrow NDC overnight. So that was sort of my question line.
Okay. Okay, I think we've got a bit of it mixed up as well. But Edmond, I want to assure you this is not a one-day wonder for me. I am in this for the long haul until I see Ghana climb on the path that is truly progressive. So that is the assurance I want to give, that this is not a 9-day wonder. This is not for me an agenda to get a few votes and then get some party to align with and, you know, get a post in some little corner and that's it. No, we're in this for the long haul. Ghana is the agenda in what we are doing, and it will continue until that dream happens. But let me also again stress that, you know, NPP stood up to the NDC at a time that was different. The circumstances were different, and I am not saying that it necessarily has to happen immediately, but I see too many opportunities for this to happen this year than other years. So I just want to stress that point. Not, you know, this is not about my head being in the cloud, but you know, we're very hopeful about this because the circumstances really align themselves. So Edmond, that's my response.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ghani and Edmond over there. So we've come to the end of our program today, and I'll allow you all to give your concluding remark. But I'll read this one comment from Blessed Beyond Belief. He says that the Ghanaian acknowledges that they need a paradigm shift. So I think we all acknowledge the fact that we need to raise a third force. However, the third force is not, like he says in Tree, is not giddy enough. And so what's your concluding remark as far as raising a third force is concerned? I start with you, Dr. Rekun.
Okay, Evans, I think that when we talk about democracy, one of the important features of the democracy we talk about is political pluralism. Okay, we talk about, people with different ideas, with different, beliefs, getting representation or ability to participate in the government of the state. So that's why we have this freedom of association, rights, human rights, and respect of human rights. So we have, built in some of these factors to be able to ensure that everybody's interest is fulfilled. The kind of political system we have right now, where two parties have dominated the political process over the years, it's not going to allow this kind of representation that we sought in our democratic process. And that's why there's the need for, third force. That, smaller parties having representation with new ideas and innovative ideas, trying to shape a political process so that not only two parties then, take everything together. We're saying that, if Ghana is to progress and also to have a third force, we need to switch allegiance, and also, we have to enable that to happen. I have been proposing that probably we should switch towards a proportional representative kind of system whereby smaller parties then have a say in the affairs of the state. So that, people will then be encouraged to vote for them, and also people will then have kind of support they need in terms of finances and others. Right now, without a significant support base for these smaller parties, they are basically facing a lot of challenges. And it will take them a while to be able to break through this. But if we allow for proportional representation, people will then come to support these parties, in a lot of ways. Right now they are guarding the momentum, and they are advocating that people should support them. But to complete this process, I mean, a proportional representation will make it quite more meaningful. And that's where I'm advocating that we will go, so that the country can have a much broader space, and then people will be very happy with the political process, and everybody will be actively involved in the process. That was the way we should go. And that's my message to the people of Ghana. Let's try to change the process so that the people of Ghana will feel represented in the process of government.
Thank you very much. So your concluding remark really touches on a systemic change of moving into the proportional representation, which might need some constitutional amendments. I would have given Honorable Ghani the last bite, but I let you have your concluding remark before, Professor, because there's a very interesting question here from one Jifa Akolo, who says that, does Honorable Ghani have a documented plan or strategy regarding his intentions? I mean, not necessarily going into details a lot, but this is the question for you, also partly what the question that Edmond also asked. So you have someone asking that, do you have any documented plan or strategy for your intentions? And then what's your concluding remark on the way forward to raise a third force in the Ghanaian political system?
I'm hard pressed to understand whether he's talking about our manifesto or what happens after 2020. But if he's talking about a manifesto, yes, there is a manifesto that is out. If he's referring to what is it called? What we want to do post 2020, yes, there is a document. But that document obviously is a very confidential document. It's not something that will be open to public. But as I have said, I have indicated that, you know, what we are trying to do is to sort of make a run for it this December, and I am hopeful that, you know, Ghanaians will speak to that effect. To give my closing remarks, let me just say that, yes, I believe that the time has indeed come for the duopoly to be quieted by Ghanaians. We made them the duopoly they became today. We can unmake them the duopoly that have not worked for us. Let me also say that the conversation we have had about needing a third force, I want to say categorically to all Ghanaians, you are the third force. Every single one of us as citizens is the third force. We are the ones who made the duopolies out of these people. It is our votes that made them who they are today. It is our votes that would make them and put Ghana on a new path. So to all those who believe that we do need a duopoly to be quashed and we need a third force, yes, I agree. But I also want you to know that you are the third force we are looking for. You are the third force that will make this change happen. We don't have another 27 years to play around this too. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ghani. And Professor Pokuenchi, your concluding remark.
Evans, I believe in the youth of Africa. I also believe in the words of Chinua Achebe that there's nothing wrong with African climate or land or anything. It is just that we don't have exemplary leaders who will move us or usher us to the next century. I also believe in the words of Stephen Covey that pain brings change. So the pain that our people are going through when you cannot have even 1 square meter of food to eat, but people will follow these political parties all their life. I know some youth who follow political parties and some are dead now, who after a whole day of rallies are given just fried rice. But they will follow these political parties because they thought that change will come. For those of you who don't know, the issue is simple. Leadership is just moment, not those who have been in power for a long time. And I believe that to break that duopoly, we need the moment of change, and that should come from the youth. I also will encourage those who are entering into this to think about amassing themselves or identifying themselves with the youth, because the youth will bring the change. We are all stakeholders in bringing this change that we need. And I will end this way. Let's change our way of thinking, revolutionize our political culture, and transform our lives. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Poku Entry. I must say thank you very much, Dr. Ishmael Rekun. Thank you also for your time, Honorable Marek Kofi Gane. Thank you also, Edmond, for your questions, and Albert, who streamed live on Facebook. And for viewers and listeners, we are grateful to you. Our concluding remark, as has been said already, I mean, if we look at raising the third force from a systemic change is what Dr. Reku talks a lot about regarding the proportional representation. But in terms of pragmatic changes, what Honorable Marie Kofi Gane and Professor Poku Entry put together, that you are the third force. Ghanaians, the youth, we are the third force. And so we need to come together to make sure that we do not vote on tribal lines or on sentiments and other trivial issues, but we need to raise that kind of third force that we need to see we need to divorce the NDC and the MPP if we want to have a very competitive democratic system in Ghana. My name is Evans Apia Kisi, the host of SEPSA Talk. Thank you all, and see you in another episode. Bye-bye.